Welcome to the penultimate Richmond Kickers Weekly. My name is Daryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who's checking if that was the right word. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Oh, no, I knew the right word because it took me a really long time to learn that in my life. I kept thinking it meant like second top or like first best. I forget. Yeah. But more so...
It could mean second bottom in this case.
More so, it took me a minute to realize that you were implying for this year as opposed to we're done with Kickers Weekly forever. Okay.
What I'm saying is there's one more game to go this Saturday against Orlando City B.
You're correct.
Who are 13 points behind the Kickers. So Orlando can't catch us this weekend. That's good.
Unless we make it a 14-pointer.
Unless we make it a 14-pointer. Play Toronto FC 2 on Wednesday. Maybe we should offer Orlando that deal.
Yeah.
Quadruple or nothing.
I like that.
Quintuple or nothing.
Do we get those points if we win then?
Yeah, then we'd make the playoffs.
There we go. Okay. I'm down for this deal.
The rest of the league might not agree to it.
You don't think?
No.
I don't know.
I mean, particularly hard done by would be Toronto FC 2.
Yeah.
Who just bested the Richmond Kickers at City Stadium this past Wednesday night. We're here to review that game. It finished Richmond Kickers 1, Toronto FC 2-2.
Well said. And we saw a return of starting center backs Wahab Akwe and Connor Shinovsky, who were both suspended. Braden Troyer did not play in this game because he was suspended. Yep. That's the kind of rotating pattern of suspensions.
The red card rotations.
Yeah. And despite those changes, it did seem like the Kickers were able to come out and sort of execute the game plan that they wanted to execute. We saw...
A bit more pressing, maybe?
Yeah, but we saw
high pressure?
Boateng start up top. Dennis Chin went wide left, but Boateng sort of leading the line, blocking off passes. He did a really good job in the moments we saw of sort of cutting off passes between the center backs and kind of forcing Toronto into one half of the field. And that's where the goal comes from.
Right?
Yeah.
I think most people don't notice that a centre forward doing that, but it really, literally cuts the field in half for the opposition, and then it lets your team pressure one side of the field because you can predict pretty much which way it's going to go. And that's basically how the move starts for Moape's goal in the 9th minute.
Right, because I think the Kickers, we haven't seen them do this effectively and consistently this season as we did against Toronto, at least in the opening half.
Do you think it's because Boateng's better at it than Chin or Jackson?
Yes, I think that's probably a decent explainer as to why, and maybe that was
faster at least, right? So he's just getting to close down space quicker.
Right.
Yeah. And he probably knows his angles a little better.
Yeah, and because he's faster and knows his angles a little bit better, and because the Kickers are up for it, or like up for this sort of approach in a way we haven't seen them as much this season, I think Toronto caught a little bit, at least in the opening 15 to 20 minutes. And as you said, that's where the goal comes from. But I think if you're not used to a team being up on you and you think we're going to have time to pass it around and center back to center back and center back to center back and then to the right back and then back to the center back, once you're put under that pressure, you sort of have to play faster.
You just did the Simpsons sketch.
Yeah, I did. But like I say that to illustrate the idea that like if you're prepared to have that time and then you don't have that time, it forces you into sort of rash decisions. And here, every passing option is cut off, so it ends up just being a long ball that the Kickers are able to win back and reestablish their own possession.
And then away we go, right? I think the ball ends up with Lockerbie, right back, who's a little bit advanced. And he does this nice move where with his right foot he cuts inside, and then with his left foot he plays Moape in down the wing. It's really like fluid motion. I love those little soccer moves. Moape's away down the right, and you think, okay, maybe he's going to be a fullback and cross it. He ends up cutting.
He beats like four people.
Beats like four people with a cut, and I think takes the Toronto goalkeeper by surprise.
Yes.
By shooting from an angle where really you shouldn't be shooting from. But I guess it works out this time.
Yeah, unless maybe the keeper was so surprised that like he was giving the near post a lot of space, and that's where that ball ends up going in.
Because he was at the near post, right? The keeper was at the near post, but not fully covering it.
Well, this is why like we talk about, the guys on Match of the Day talk about this a lot, about how important it is to get numbers in the box when you're attacking and kind of aggressive runs into the box. And here, even though Moape ends up dribbling, cutting back, getting the shot off, the Kickers still have four other players crashing into the 18-yard box. And I think if you're Toronto and the goalkeeper, you maybe are like...
Klinovsky, by the way, is the goalkeeper.
Thank you. I think you're like mostly focused on Moape, but if you're also like, oh, I got to check that run, or I got to make sure, if you're the goalkeeper, like Klinovsky, you got to like maybe just slide over a little bit more, be prepared to cheat. And if you're sort of like putting that weight on like your right foot to shuffle across and then the shot comes into your left, it's harder to react to it that much faster. So those runs...
Pretty much what happens, right?
Yeah. So those runs into the box, I think even if they don't end up like pulling defenders away or no one ends up getting like the square pass for a tap in, it's still those numbers cause problems for Toronto.
I think that's absolutely right. So the Kickers take the lead 1-0 in the 9th minute.
Yep.
That lasts all of 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Because in the 13th minute, Jordan Perruzza scores for Toronto.
Yeah.
And he nearly scored in the 12th minute with the cross and the header. Yeah.
He did, and probably should have. He's got a little bit of like traffic in front of him, which is why I think that header goes wide.
Maybe he heads it wide because he thinks, we'll let the Kickers build out the back and we'll put pressure on them from there and score.
Yeah, rope it up. We'll build fake confidence. But that is what happens. The Kickers take the goal kick, they play it short, they move the ball around a little bit, but essentially the problem that happens here is with Kickers only having 2 center backs in a back 4, when they're trying to establish possession, those center backs spread very wide. It allows
to the right and Quay to the left.
And it allows the fullbacks to push up a little bit more.
Which is adventurous, right? I like the aggressiveness of it. I
do.
like the expansiveness of it.
Unless you can't hold the ball. Because Maxi Rodriguez, the holding midfielder, then he drops in, and you've sort of got a spread back 3. But in this situation, if you then are trying to kind of force some passes in and your players can't hold the ball, then when that ball's poked away, now you basically have one holding midfielder controlling the entire center of the pitch because your center backs are so spread wide. And that's where the space is for this goal to occur.
And I think we have to kind of name and shame him. It's Dennis Chin, who there's a perfectly good pass into his feet. And he just doesn't hold it up, right? He gets kind of bodied. He
doesn't do anything because he could have dropped it off. He could have tried to play a square pass. He could have just tried to like put a foot on it and kind of battle a little bit and see what develops.
I think that's what he was trying to do.
It felt like he made that decision to do that very late. It seemed like he was looking for the pass and then suddenly was like, oh, the ball's here. I guess I'll put my foot on it. And because he hasn't like fully committed to doing the shielding and the work there, he's maybe only like 50% aware.
So the body shape isn't right to correctly shield it.
Yeah. And so it's just poked away, and now you've got a TFC counterattack. Chin tries to get back into position somewhat, but even then is still, I think, outside of the box when the goal occurs. For his part, Maxi Rodriguez, I think, tries to do what he can do, which is essentially split the difference between a player now running at him with the ball and then there being Toronto's like proven goal scorer also making a run behind, and I think he tries to sort of like slow up the play, but also like mark the man, but also maybe let him go offside. And instead, it's just a smart run from Perruzza that does not tread into offside territory.
It's nice looking, but it's an easy pass from Nobel Okello. This is who gets the assist because the centre backs are spread so far wide, and because Maxi Rodriguez doesn't decide to mark Perruzza, because I think the centre backs are starting to close the doors. Right, they're just very slow. Slowly coming in. Perruzza can just run straight through that gap in the middle. Okello can play him through, and then it's an easy finish from there from Perruzza, right? Not brilliant.
I was going to say,
goal.
I mean, it should be an easy finish. He sort of makes it look a little bit difficult because he goes far side netting, which is always where you want to put it. But I think Rice,
around the keeper,
in this case, has good positioning. But I think Perruzza, he is left-footed, isn't he? So I think that's how he's able to get the bend. But Rice still, I think, sees it, knows where he wants to go, gets down, gets a hand to it, but it's just not strong enough in getting the hand to it to actually push that ball wide. Instead, it still goes in. Not the worst of the performances from Rice in terms of the 2 goals on the evening. I'd say the second one, he's slightly more to blame.
I think a quick sort of a tactical note is I think what we see in this goal is the problem when you play a back 4 instead of the back 3 that the Kickers have gone with recently. When you do spread the centre-backs wide for possession and push the full-backs high for possession, there is that giant hole in the middle, right? And then if you don't maintain possession, if you have a guy like Chin does here give the ball away, suddenly there's a massive gap that's easily exploitable.
And then if you have a change in formation, as you mentioned, but a change in personnel somewhat due to injuries, there was injury to Scott Thompson that requires him to be substituted out. Magalhaes comes in, then Magalhaes gets injured. He leaves at halftime. So you've got injuries, you've got a change in formation. What you then don't have is the sort of patterns of play and the recognition of what's happening but based on repetition. And so I think that also explains why Chin has to put the foot on it and slow it down a little bit more. He doesn't automatically know, like, okay, when this ball comes into me, I know that I've got the other central midfielder dropping in. I can sort of do a like reverse lateral pass and then spin off and get the ball back. And like you don't have those patterns, so it ends up being sort of moments of improvisation that can, in this case, backfire.
Yep, because this isn't Second City.
Not so much.
Okay, so Toronto take the lead in the 52nd minute. It's Perruzza again. I want to focus on a moment just before that, though, maybe 2 minutes earlier. There's a break. I believe it's Nelson for Toronto. He breaks through the middle, and there is an absolutely like Bobby Moore in 1970 tackle. Perfect tackle from Connor Shinosky. It's like a slide tackle where he gets all ball, and I don't say that often, but he gets all ball. It's super clean. and the referee gives a free kick, and I believe a card to Shinovsky.
Yes, and I'm
really upset about this because when a centre-back does something so perfectly, you don't deserve to be punished.
I want to double down on what you said there because I agree with you entirely that there shouldn't have been a call, let alone a card. And
it should have been a round of applause from the entire stadium.
It should have been, and maybe would have been if this whistle hadn't gone. But we say often that one of the things that frustrates me, at least, is a person screaming, "I got ball," after they barely touched the ball and then went through a player's shin.
Yeah.
And so all I want to emphasize here is that when you say he got all ball, he got all ball. He wins the ball, he steps in with the instep, pokes the ball away, attacker runs into him, and then the call is given. So it's not even like he's making a reckless challenge or putting the attacker into a situation when he could be injured.
Yeah.
He's making a really smart defensive play in a 1v1 defensive scenario.
Yep.
He kind of does everything you want and still ends up punished, which is maybe a good sort of representation for the Kickers this season.
Yep, I want that card overturned and replaced with some sort of award from the USL.
I wonder if it's just because Shinovsky gets those red cards and maybe they're just we'll just give you a yellow this time.
Yeah.
It's fine. But yes, I'm okay with the reversal into award. That works for me.
So a couple of minutes later, 52nd minute, Jordan Peruzza again on the score sheet. The assist coming from the aforementioned Jayden Nelson, and it's essentially a counter-attack after the Kickers had some possession and committed numbers forward.
Yes, and I agree with that, and I would say it's a strange situation, though, because we knew the goal. It's listed as the 52nd. I think it goes in 52:02, so technically 53rd. But we were watching and thinking they must have gotten this wrong because the Kickers have possession. They're moving the ball around the top of the box, and it feels for all the world okay, the only way this makes sense is either they got the clock wrong or the Kickers are going to turn this over, and then it's going to lead to a rapid-fire counterattack. And then they get called for offside, the Kickers, and we were both oh, okay, they must have gotten the clock wrong.
So it's Lockerbie slipping a ball down the right for, I want to say, Moape?
I believe you're correct, yeah.
And Moape's offside, right? Yeah. So that's where the play dies.
And so, again, I'm just illustrating that to explain that you are technically correct that it is a counterattack, but it's not the counterattack that we expected where the Kickers have pushed numbers forward. They're trying to get a winner.
Goal, right?
Yeah. And then they get countered on and they only left one or two back. Here, whistle goes. Toronto get the ball back in play. They move the ball around. It goes back to the goalkeeper, who then plays it long wide to Jayden Nelson, who's advanced up to right around midfield on the touchline. It's a great touch from him to bring this ball down because it's absolutely going to go out of bounds otherwise, and he kind of brings it down on the touchline. But if you go back and watch, is it Eckenrode or is it Lockerbie?
It's Lockerbie.
Lockerbie, because Eckenrode comes in, but he's playing left back. Lockerbie here is frustrated by the offside call, maybe frustrated by Moape being offside, and so he sort of puts his head up and walks back and is frustrated. Then when the ball is restarted, he just sort of gets drawn to it because, I'm near the pass, I'll run over and do that. The ball gets dropped, the ball gets played long, and now Lockerbie is way out of position.
Because he should be with Jayden Nelson, right? Who's the left winger.
Who literally runs by him. Yes.
Yeah, so Lockerbie should have been tracking him back.
Yes.
It's some basic soccer stuff.
But it's the domino effect of then the right back's out of position, so now your right center back has to slide over to try to make a play on Nelson.
Shinovsky comes over to try and repeat his tackle on Nelson. But unfortunately, when he comes over, he has to leave Peruzza.
Yeah.
And Nelson is able to, maybe he's I can't get past this guy. He's gonna Bobby Moore tackle me.
I saw what happened.
So Nelson slides the ball into Peruzza, who is again wide open, running through the middle between two centre backs.
Right.
Wahaba Kwai comes over, but in my opinion, maybe forgets Peruzza's left-footed because he doesn't come and challenge Peruzza's left foot.
He certainly doesn't think a shot's
coming.
He's
setting up to block the right-footed attack, right?
All I can figure is that he thinks there's no way he's going to shoot from here. He's going to wait for more numbers to be involved in the attack, he being Peruzza.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to kind of slow him up, shepherd him to one side, and then either try to make a defensive play or force him to cut back, and then we'll have numbers back into shape. And because he doesn't really close that shot down and I think never really sees it as a threat, which is kind of crazy given that Peruzza is, if nothing else, Toronto's Golden Boot leader or in the race for their Golden Boot. I don't know where he is in the league, but 2 more on the evening can't hurt. And so it ends up being Peruzza kind of taking the surprise shot for Akwe. And I think equally surprised was Rice, the goalkeeper for the Kickers, who really, this is the one where it's, 20, 25 yards out is the shot. Probably 20, but Rice still has plenty of time to get down, again, to get a hand to it, to at least push it wide, if not kind of smother it, and instead sees it late, I think, or not sees it late, but just kind of reacts to it late. His feet are set in the ground, as the shot is already on its way. So then when he dives, he's going to be diving late. He's not going to get as much force behind it. And even though I think he still gets a hand to it, it still ends up in the back of the net after hitting his hand.
It's unfortunate, right? Because this is one of Rice's chances to prove that like maybe he could start instead of Fitzgerald. But like based on the evidence of this, I'm much more comfortable with Fitzgerald as the starter this coming Saturday against Orlando and going into next season, assuming Fitzgerald sticks around.
No arguments for me.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to talk about next Saturday? Or this coming Saturday?
Yeah.
So, final game of the season. We can't make the playoffs.
Nope.
I don't think
unless we do this 14-point thing. We'll see what the league says.
Yeah, it's worth a go, right?
How about we let Shinovsky keep the yellow card? We won't protest that one, but in exchange, this is or did you make it 15 points? You made it 15, right?
Yeah, because I made it quintuple on.
Okay, all right, I like it. I'm sure the league will too. Cool, good plan.
So unfortunately, the Kickers are 9th, right? 13 points ahead of Orlando City B, but 4 points behind FC Tucson in 8th. So the Kickers can't do any better than finish second bottom of USL League One. But they can at least go out with, go out with a bang, final home game of the season. It's also going to be Braden Troyer's final game for the Richmond Kickers. We got the announcement this afternoon that Braden Troyer, really long-time servant of the Richmond Kickers, sometime left back, sometime defensive midfielder, sometime centre back. He's going to be retiring at the end of the season. This will be the Braden Troyer send-off game.
Yes, and I have faith.
If I can guarantee one starter this weekend, it'll be Braden Troyer.
That checks out to me, and I can also guarantee the Red Army will honor him accordingly.
Yeah,
they have the Braden Troyer "He's a Warrior" song. I expect we'll hear that early and often in this game. They'll probably still sing it next season. I'm sure he'll probably catch a game or two with the Red Army. It will be sung then.
So we look forward to the Braden Troyer send-off. It's always nice when you know a player's retiring and you can honour him. Anything else you'd like to see this Saturday?
Goals, a win.
Goals and a win.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to see Boateng start up top again.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the energy, the pressing, the kind of like moving off the ball, I think that opened up space for other attackers. All of that is a solid sign of growth and a solid performance from him. So, yeah, I would happily see Boateng start again.
Back 3 or back 4?
Back 3.
Back 3? What if Megales isn't fit? Back 3 with Troyer?
I wouldn't mind that, but I guess we'd rather see Troyer played centrally, so maybe it's a back 4 with Troyer in the middle.
Yeah. He also, when he plays defensive midfield, it adds a bit of solidity. Right? I was even thinking about the second goal. If that's Braden Troyer playing as the number 6 instead of Maxi Rodriguez, there's a chance maybe Troyer makes the better defensive decision.
Yeah, a bit more battle there probably.
A bit more battle there, yeah. Any other things you'd like to see?
No, that's it. I mean, happy people leaving the stadium.
Yes, smiles at the 90th minute and beyond.
Not that feeling of like, oh, it's the 90th minute. Maybe they'll pull something off. I want to be able to be like, it's the 90th minute. They've got this in the bag.
Yeah, I'd also like to see some more of the Joe Gallardo show.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen some magic from Joe Gallardo. It'd be nice for him to end the season.
Yeah.
And then hopefully come back next season.
All right. Gallardo, Boateng get some goals, 2-0 win, comprehensive, the pressing causes problems, and everybody leaves happy.
Pressing, that's the thing I'd like to see, the high pressure again. Yeah, let's go with that again.
I like it.
All right, so we'll have one more Richmond Kickers Weekly to come. It's going to be a collaboration with River City 93, the other Richmond Kickers podcast out there, and we'll be taking listener questions. So if you've got questions that you'd like us about the Richmond Kickers that you'd like us to answer, we'll put this out on Twitter so some Kickers fans can do it. I'm also interested in hearing from people who've listened to Richmond Kickers Weekly every week but don't live in Richmond. If you're curious about the team, email us, contact@talkshow.com, and just let us know what Kickers questions you have.
We did have a few people who I think missed why we were doing this, like jump in and be like, why do they randomly do this one show about this one team that I don't know anything about? And it's because they're our Richmond team and we cover them. There we go.
There we go.
That's my answer.
That's that question answered, so don't ask that one. All right, Taylor Rockwell.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for talking Kickers with me.
Right back at you, buddy.
Let's be played out by some people we know will be there on Saturday. It's the Red Army.